on crossing boundaries, corporates, startup partnerships for modern innovation. Our star panelists for the same are Gaurav Gupta, Chief Commercial Officer at MG Motor India. Gaurav is a business professional with 24 years of experience in general management and operations, and has tremendous experience in this sector across Asian market. Our next speaker is Madhurima Agarwal from NetApp Excellerator. She is leading GIC strategy and operations and is a techno-functional leader with a strong bias towards innovation. If you are closely associated with the Indian startup ecosystem, you would have certainly seen Madhurima on some platform by now for sure. She's very active and supportive startup evangelist. The panel will be moderated by none other than the most dynamic and powerful leader, Lathika Pai, Country Head, Venture Capital and Private Equity Partnerships at Microsoft. Over to you, Lathika.
Thank you, Smita, and a very warm welcome, Gaurav and Madhurima, to this panel. I think both of you are doing some phenomenal work towards corporate startup innovation. And I think the theme of this conference is all about design thinking and how do we actually engage, have the right engagement between corporates and startups in the design journey. Gaurav, MG Motors. I was really, when you and I spoke the other day, I was absolutely thrilled to hear about the work that MG is doing with startups. Engaging with 125 startups in less than 20 months is quite phenomenal. What was the impetus in terms of MG wanting to engage with startups, right? I know the buzzword is co-innovate, and being cool. I think it's more than that, right? You have actually realized that innovation has to be looked outside and to bring that inside. So tell us more about that.
Thank you. You said it rightly. It's not more like a buzzword internally for us in MG. Just taking a step back, when the brand was founded in 1924 in Oxford, UK, innovation was a core pillar and remains a core pillar of the brand. So what was land speed records, in 60s and 70s, which was innovation in those days? Today, the innovation rests on the pillars of connectivity, electric, autonomous, in the automotive space and shared. So when we were working on bringing MG into India, the brand was built as an auto tech brand to create disruption and bring in differentiation in the auto sector. Now, you could argue that, what does it have to be to innovation? To be able to keep on generating, a pipeline of what will create differentiation and disruption, you need that entire support of innovative ideas and what is happening out there for the future. And that is why we said that the only way to do this is to really work with the startup ecosystem who would bring in new ideas to us. So under the brand pillar that we have today, we've got 4 pillars, innovation, diversity, community, and experience. Innovation takes the entire area forward, and that is what makes us work with the startups. And to say so then the next question was, how do you work with the startups and what is the platform you develop or you engage with the startups? Otherwise, how will they know that here is a company looking out to support startups, work on POCs and give projects to really see how you can look at the next step of industrialization of a concept as well. And that's when we developed an entire program called MG Developer and Grant, wherein we co-work with the startups on ideas, work with them within our operations. But we also have a jury which consists of support partners like SAP, Adobe, Cognizant, TiE itself, and Unlimit and more. And we bring them on board for incubation. So it's a very dedicated work at our end. We've given some grants. We're working on projects. As we speak, we've got more than 26 active projects working with the startups.
Great. Thanks, Gaurav. I'm going to come back to you. I want to ask Madhurima. Madhurima, the NetApp Accelerator has had some phenomenal success in working with deep tech startups. Why do you believe you have been successful, and what is really the secret sauce, right? Because there are several accelerators that are out there, but most of them are shutting down. But the NetApp Accelerator has really found that the right way in terms of engaging with startups. So it'll be great to hear from you as to how you all have really taken the concept of co-innovation to the next level.
Thanks, Lathika, for the compliment. Yes, I think, I was just hearing Vijay before I logged into this session. I think that some of the things that he was saying are important to have a successful collaboration between a corporate and startups is something that we've been able to implement from day one. So for us, working with startups is all about collaboration. And when we started this program, the whole notion was all centered about how do we make our startup successful. That was the major thinking around which we built the program, and it's always been for even when we are assessed on the success of the program, it's always how many of your startups have been successful. That I think is what has helped us achieve what we have so far. Also the fact that we spend a lot of time doing selections, and one of the most important questions that we ask ourselves before we select a startup in the program is it a right fit for us? Are we going to be able to help them on what they need help with? And that's why our curriculum is very, very fluid. It's very flexible. It changes with every cohort because every time startups need something different. So that it's customized to their needs. And while it keeps us on our toes because every 6 months we have to look at again what do we do now, I think it's worked well.
Great.
So if yeah.
Thanks. So, Gaurav, I have a question actually for both of you. Y'all are the Indian subsidiaries of global brands, right? And have you, in the past 20 months, found a startup that you have worked with and felt that their technology could be used globally? How does this fit into the global strategy for MG, and what is the exposure that the startups get?
Interestingly, you talked about it's like a outward bound startup tech from India, and the reason why it's very promising. So let me set the context. So we call ourselves into working on a CASE platform, which is connected, autonomous, shared, and electric. So allow me to just use my brand names here. So our first car is the NG Hector, which is the internet SUV, and then the second is the electric, which is the ZS. EV, and the third is the autonomous level 1 MG Gloucester. Now, what is happening is that as we brought this technology into India, many of the startups we are working with, for example, we are working in the area of voice, we are working in the area of maps and connectivity, and these apps now reside on the interface in the car, right? So we are working with some of the startups here, I won't be able to name them, but these apps then have the journey to go outward of India into other markets as well, because these apps are easily able to modify themselves through their local level APIs and become relevant in those markets. So it's definitely a two-way journey. We started with an inward bound approach, but at the same time, now we are seeing a lot of these incubator programs helping us to pick up startups in the areas of voice, in the area of new apps, vision-based activities. We're working with a company that's in the area of web XR and AR outward from India as well into our global operations.
Great. That's very exciting, because I think for startups who are listening in and tuning in here, it isn't just this is hey, let's come in and kind of work with the India team. The opportunity is really potentially being in every MG car that is being produced all over the world. I think that really is the size of what you're trying to drive through this program. Some of it, of course, maybe for localized support that you require. But I think overall the idea is to not plug them in only into India, but to plug them in globally. So that's great. Madhurima, coming back to NetApp, right? How many of the startups that you've worked with, closely, one is running the accelerator, but two, more importantly, like you said, part of your metrics is to see how well the startup is done, right? So there are two parts to that metric, which is one, how well have they done engaging with NetApp and being part of the NetApp suite of products, and B, of course, as a result of engaging with NetApp, what has been their journey getting other similar kind of clients. So if you're able to give us some examples, I think that would be great.
Yeah. So for us, it's an international program, and this is the only program that we run globally for NetApp. So some examples, and I'll give you examples from across the world. So one of our startups called Litmus Automation, that's a US-based startup. It's working very closely with our sales team, the global sales team, and being connected to our clients. When I say our clients, the NetApp clients, because we are introducing their solution. In terms of co-creation, we don't create a joint product with the startups, but what we do is we partner with them as independent ISV, as we would with other ISVs. And that keeps it relatively simple, from an accelerator point of view, that, we find a startup, we do the connects, we build something, as in the startup mode, we say we build a MVP, and then we hand it over to the respective teams to drive it and take it forward. We have examples of startups in the Australia market. So one of our Indian startups actually shifted lock, stock, barrel to Australia because they were so successful with the collaboration with NetApp's Australia teams, and they were getting so much business there. In India, of course, for us, BFSI is one of the big markets, and all of them are focused on things like security, things like, technology is big. BFSIs are also tech companies in a way now, given the amount of tech they use. So we have a lot of startups that have engaged with them. So there are many examples, I can go on and on. But overall, what we have seen is that there's a healthy mix of startups that have engaged with NetApp, and some have gone on to become vendors for NetApp after the paid POCs. And some we have worked, B2B is always a long sales cycle. So we are still seeing a lot of good collaboration happening between NetApp sales and the startup. So yeah, fingers crossed, we'll see some good numbers.
No, I think it's really exciting, especially what you just mentioned about the startup that found engagement with the team in Australia and being able to go into that market. I think that is a huge value add for startups. Gaurav, coming back to you, the theme of this conference is about design thinking and design innovation. What would be interesting to understand is maybe one example about how the design thinking was from the start, the MG and a startup work together in terms of defining the product. I think especially in the automotive business, ergonomics is such a large part of it, and design thinking is a very, very important, I would say, aspect of what you're trying to do. So maybe if you could share an example for the audience, that would be great.
So, some of the work that is being carried out right now is still in draft stage as we speak. For example, we are working with a company called Redbot, which is in computer vision for manufacturing, which helps us to help remove defects in the manufacturing process. But the more interesting part as to where we've actually worked and on the entire design thinking approach is when you're looking at a platform for chargers. Electrification is the way for the future. And while 80% of people would be using the home chargers, but there is still a concern out there that, what would happen if I get stuck or stranded on the way. So we've been working with two startups to literally define the problem. Of course, they came up with the idea, but of course, through our inputs, how to improve the thought process there, work on the way that the platform can really be taken to the real market, done an entire proof of that as well, pilot execution also, and it's almost ready now to be put out there to share. For example, it's like putting up your charger network on a market platform where you would say that if your car is out of charge, which is the nearest charger available, where you can pay online through the app itself. You go and block it for 30 odd minutes, top up your charge, or 20 minutes, depending on how much time you have, use it and move on. So it's very much a very, very new concept, which actually is developing as we speak internationally also. So this is an idea we feel that can really, be born in India and then go global also.
Wow, that's super exciting, because that's always is a problem, right? When I keep thinking of buying an electric car, not only do you have to worry about, okay, do I have electricity in my own house and enough backup in terms of making that I have a fully charged battery, or if I have to find I'm in a situation going long distance, where do I stop and where do I charge my battery? So I think until that is kind of taken care of, the adoption of EVs is going to be a little bit more I would say slower. So I think something like this would be great to say, okay, I'm here, between Nanjangud and Mysore, where can I go and charge my car? And if the app tells me and I can do that, I think that's fantastic.
Like, if I can interrupt you there, I'm sorry, it's going even further. So suppose you're visiting a friend who's in a condo, for example, where there are some chargers available, and the users of those chargers are not using that for their own cars. The cars is charged up or they're not at home. You also we have the option of saying, hey, by the way, let us say you are in apartment XYZ complex. There are 4 chargers available. If you happen to spend more than an hour, you can easily plug in your car while you have your coffee with your friend or dinner with your friend. Your car will again get topped up. So that's the kind of predictive model also that's being worked upon. So this entire design thinking approach is evolving as we speak in this new space. But it's very, very interesting.
So it's almost like the Airbnb of chargers, right?
You could say that, yes.
In terms of how you're looking at saying, hey, you have spare charging capacity, you're going to get paid by that. I think it's super cool. I think that's the way we have to go. There's no question.
The government has allowed it. The government has allowed reselling of electricity only for electric vehicle chargers.
Very nice, very nice. I think that's what we need to lead the way. It's very exciting to hear. Madhurima, India is now coming out as a B2B SaaS, startup ecosystem. And it's great to see, the kind of investments that are going into B2B SaaS, right? I think 10 years ago, almost all of it was B2B2C, and NetApp's works with B2B SaaS. Startups. From where you've been, what do you believe has been the silver bullet that is making more and more founders focus on global B2B SaaS products?
I think one is the acceptance of entrepreneurship in general, which has now allowed a lot of seasoned professionals in the B2B space, which was generally considered a safe space. You anyways made a lot of money if you were in the space as part of a corporate, to take up entrepreneurship, and which has seen a lot of very, very talented folks coming in. The second is, and Lathika, with contributors like you to the Indian ecosystem, where everybody now has a very robust ecosystem. People feel supported. There are global connects that can happen just sitting outside of India. You don't need to have a global office day one if you want to start sales globally. All those things have contributed a lot. And, the money follows wherever they see there is an opportunity. So when that opportunity has been created, we see that a lot of the VCs abroad have now set up shop in India. So if there's availability of capital, there's availability of talent, and there is a conducive environment which has been set up to support this whole ecosystem, magic is happening as we see. And just the fact that we are all confined to our homes, geographical distance is no more a challenge. So that also has probably encouraged a lot of folks to look at B2B very seriously, and not be thwarted by the fact that they cannot be present to next to their customers. So probably some of these things
No, no, I completely agree with you. I think it's just phenomenal. As at Microsoft, when I was traveling to the Middle East and talking to ecosystem players there or in other parts of Asia, everyone actually looks to India, right? They look at India and saying, how is India creating all the startup ecosystem? They're not interested in Silicon Valley, nor China. They believe that India is the ecosystem to emulate, and what are the different things that we're doing right in terms of taking it to the next level. And clearly it's because of companies like NetApp, and MG, who are partnering with the ecosystem in terms of creating these startups that can have the opportunity to go global. I think that really is why we're able to kind of churn out world-class startups. Thank you so much. We're almost at the end of time. We started this session late, but really appreciate you all being here today. Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you, Madhurima, and thank you to the TiE and team for putting us all together. Smita,
thank you, Lathika.
Thank you very much. Pleasure. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Madhurima. See you.